When I want uniform and even coverage in my paintings, I use opaque colors. For example, in this horse painting that we're going to be finishing this week, I used opaque colors to paint in the sky, the tree line, and the middle ground. If you watched the last two parts of this painting tutorial, you'll probably know that the horse was painted in using thin layers of transparent paint so that I could erase and add some texture into it. But for this background and that bokeh effect, I don't want any texture. I want smooth transitions and blends between colors and values. And so this is where opaque paints are going to come in. I'm not going to use any erasing or scratching techniques to remove any of this paint. All the highlights are going to come from the opaque white paint within these mixtures. You might be wondering, how do you know if a specific color is opaque? And it's easy. The paint manufacturer is always going to tell you. If you look at a bottle or a tube from any good paint brand, it's always going to tell you the opacity, the light fastness, and the pigments used. Not with every brand, but you're often going to see these symbols which are going to tell you if a color is transparent, semi-transparent, semi-opaque, or opaque. And now every brand seems to have their own way of conveying this information, but a good brand is always going to include it in some way or another. And some of the really good brands like Golden actually include a swatch of the paint applied directly to the bottle so that you can see the color's opacity or transparency for yourself. Let's start with the color for the sky. I'm using the color Super White by Schmincke Aero Colors, and this is just a very opaque color. It has some pretty amazing coverage for an acrylic ink. And to this, I'm adding a small amount of cyan, which is a transparent color, and some black to give us this cool gray. I'll reduce this mixture with a small amount of distilled water because that's what the paint manufacturer recommends thinning their paint with, and then I'll just mix this up. And I usually mix my paint one of three ways, either with a popsicle stick or a coffee mixer, just shaking it like this by hand, or using a mini vortex mixer. And then what I did from here was just add some of this paint into my airbrush and then spray some of it onto a white piece of paper at 100% and then compare that color to the reference photo that I printed out. It needed to be a little bit cooler and lighter, so I added some more white to the mixture and another drop of blue. In this case, it was a lot more white to lighten it up, and then a few adjustments with those three colors. I was able to match the hue and the value of the reference photo. And so this color is ready to be used to start painting in the sky, and the nice thing about this one is the sky is very simple. It's just a solid color all the way across. The value does get a bit lighter as we move down to the horizon along that tree line, but we could adjust that very easily later on. With the horse fully painted in, I'm going to switch over to the color that we just mixed and start painting in the sky. I want to prevent any of this paint from getting on the horse, so I have a custom cut shield here. This way it's going to keep my edges sharp and it's going to prevent that overspray from landing on the horse. I'm lining up just a part of my shield along the edge of the horse and I'm starting to spray this paint over it. And you can see the way that I'm angling my airbrush away from that shield so that paint doesn't get underneath it. For an opaque paint like this, I generally like to spray it thicker. It's only reduced about 10, maybe 20% with distilled water, so I'm spraying here at around 30 psi. Because I mixed this color to the value that I want, it's important that I spray this paint at 100% coverage so that it fully covers the panel. But I want to say that I'm doing this slowly. I'm not hosing the paint out in one shot. I don't want it pooling up on the panel or running. I'll build up to 100% coverage in multiple thin layers of paint, letting each layer dry or tack up for a few minutes before applying the next layer. Now this white paint in the mixture is doing two things to it. It's obviously adding that opacity. Since there's so much white, it's going to give us a very opaque color to spray. This is going to help cover up some of my pencil lines and some of my grid lines, but it's also going to limit the value of the paint so that it doesn't get too dark. As long as this paint is thoroughly mixed before I spray it, I can spray it over and over and it's never going to get darker. It's always going to stay at the value that I mixed it at. And this of course is the opposite of dark transparent paints like what I use to paint in the horse. The more I spray of those, the darker they're going to get. So opaque colors like this can be a lot more forgiving to work with. The really nice thing about a loose mask like this is that I can move it around, I can lift it up to see my edges. I don't want a gap of blank panel between the horse and the background, so you're going to constantly see me moving it and checking it. And if a little bit of that overspray gets onto a part of the horse that I don't want, I could just clean it up with an eraser like I'm doing here. And then I just continue working along those edges, always working slowly, and you'll see here that I'm always angling my airbrush away from the shield, not underneath it. One thing that I want to avoid is a darker outline between the subject and the background that might make it look like it's stenciled or flat like a cartoon. So in a few parts, like on the chest that I'm doing now, I'm lining up the shield and just moving it a little bit to the left so that some of the overspray gets onto that edge along the transition point. And this is just going to help that edge blend seamlessly into the background. It's not going to look like a sharp outline. It's not going to look like a cutout or a stencil. And one thing that I want to add here is that normally for a painting like this, I would always paint the backgrounds in first before painting the subject like the horse. But for this painting, I was actually just painting the horse for this YouTube video. Then when I was finished, I had some free time, so I figured why not just paint the background in too. And after a few more layers, this cool gray sky is fully painted in. It's a nice even coat, no blotchiness in the paint. From here, it's time to start painting in that blurry, out of focus tree line. So I'm going to put a crop section of my completed painting on the left side of the screen. And this way you can just see what we're painting towards. I made 4 different opaque color mixtures for the trees, and just like before, like I showed with the sky, I started with that color Supra White, and I added some phthalo green and some yellow to it. The phthalo green and white starts to look a little bit bluish. It's kind of like a teal mixture, so I did add some yellow to shift it more toward green. And if I noticed that my green was too saturated, I can always add a little bit of the complementary color, which in this case would be red, but I didn't have to do it here. Those 3 colors work just fine for these mixtures. The way that I'm approaching this is by painting light to dark, so I'm starting with my lightest green mixture first. I'm using a shield to mask off the horse so I don't get any overspray on it, and then I'm just starting to spray in the shapes that I'm seeing. Once I get the first few shapes painted in, I'll switch over to a darker green mixture and then start mapping in some of the shadows. And even though these are opaque colors and they can't get too dark, I can still control my value up to that point by spraying less paint. So what I'm doing for a lot of this is starting with the lightest green color mixture, spraying in most of the shapes, trying to get the placement correct. And then once I'm happy with the placement, I can switch over to the darker versions, spray more to full opacity. I'm trying to keep some distance between the airbrush and the surface of the panel so that I get soft edges and smooth blends between these values and colors. I also don't want to use any sort of freehand shields to paint in the actual trees, because if I spray over a shield, that's going to give me a sharp and defined edge. The only place that you'll see me using a shield here is to mask off the horse that I painted last time, just to prevent overspray from getting on it. And as I'm doing this, you will see me play around with the distance between my airbrush and the surface. If I want some sharper edges, I move the airbrush closer. If I want softer, smoother blends, I move the airbrush a little bit farther back. If I made a mistake with a few of the darker colors, maybe I sprayed them out too far or I got the shape wrong, I can always switch back over to a lighter color and spray over it. These are all opaque colors because there's so much white in each mixture, so I can use it to cover up any mistakes. And if any color starts to look a little bit blue from spraying the lighter color over the darker, I could just dust on a bit of yellow and shift it back to green. As I paint in the trees around the horse's legs, this freehand shield is just incredibly useful to help keep that opaque paint off the horse. You can see that there's a ton of small areas in here, so it's very important for me to keep that paint within the background. What I did here was start with my lightest green opaque mixture, spraying all the shapes and the placements just so I know where they're going to be. Then I switched over to a darker green mixture and started spraying in some of the darker values and shadows within here. When painting an out of focus background like this, it's very important for me personally to follow my reference. That's going to guide me. There's a lot of soft abstract shapes here of green hues with different values blending into one another, and when you're painting up close like this, it doesn't really look like trees. It only starts to look like a tree line when I step a little bit farther back from the painting and see it from a distance, so the reference is really important here to guide me. As I move along to the right side of this tree line, I'm going to switch back over to my lightest green mixture and again start mapping in or start blocking in the placements of these values. Even though the white in this mixture is going to limit how dark this color can get, I can still control the values up to that point by how much paint I spray. An important thing here that you probably notice is that I didn't use any sort of erasers or subtractive techniques to remove paint from the surface like I normally do. And the reason for that is because an eraser is going to add texture that I don't want here. I want everything extremely smooth, and the airbrush is amazing at doing that naturally. If you've watched any of my other paintings on this channel, you'll know that I love using erasers in my paintings. It's really one of my favorite tools. And I know that I use them pretty differently than most other airbrush artists. I don't only use them for texture, but I use them to blend values and transitions, which most people don't. And so even for me, there's times where the eraser is just not the best tool for the job. And this is a perfect example where I want everything out of focus. So from here, what I'm going to do is just start blending that transition between the sky and the tree line a little bit better. And what I'm using for this is that sky color with some more white added into it. So it's going to be a lot lighter. I'm just lightly spraying this color at the bottom part of the sky along the transition. This way it just kind of blends some of these trees in, and it also lightens up the lower part of the sky toward the horizon. We can see at this point the base colors for the tree line along the right side are all painted in, so I'm going to switch over to one of my darker green colors and start filling in some of the shadows. At this point, I could still see a few of my pencil lines underneath, so I do have a bit of a cheat sheet here to help me know where these values switch from one to another. And then once I have those in, I switch over to my darkest green mixture and really add in some of the deeper parts. One of the final things that I want to do here is bring out some of the highlights a little bit more. So I'm switching over to the color white, using it very sparingly, just spraying it into some of the brighter areas. You can see that it helps to lighten up the area, but it definitely gives a bit of a color shift. So what I'm doing for the final part is switching over to the color transparent yellow and just lightly spraying it over these areas. And that's just going to help bring down some of those highlights to a more greenish hue and also add some more saturation into it. And so here's a before photo of this painting. This horse, just a reminder, was painted entirely with thin layers of dark transparent colors. All of the highlights and the brighter areas come from the surface of the clay board, and I did that by removing paint with a few different tools, mainly erasers. Here's a photo of the same painting after using those opaque colors for the background without any erasing. And it's a pretty different effect between the two, but you can see how well those opaque colors do through an airbrush for blurry out of focus effects. And so that's where I'm going to wrap this one up. That's 3 parts showing you all the techniques that I used for this painting. In a few weeks, I will add a video up on the members page showing you the techniques that I used to paint in the foreground, like the gravel, but it's all the same techniques that I already covered. To sum it up really quickly, I used some opaque colors in the midgrounds because it's still a bit out of focus and blurry, and then as I move into the foreground with the gravel texture, I use transparent colors and erasing. That way I can pull off the effect that you see in the final painting from going from in focus to somewhat in focus to blurry and out of focus. And that of course is from a lens effect from a camera shot at a wider aperture. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I do hope that you might have picked up a few tricks to use in your own work. I wish all of you the best of luck and success in your own paintings, and I will see you back here next week. And finally, before I go, I just want to say thank you so very much to the incredibly kind and generous support of the current channel members scrolling up on the screen. I couldn't do it without you guys, so I just want you to know how much it's appreciated. I'd also like to welcome the newest members. That's Gary, Trina, D. Allen Art, Drazen, Adam, Michael P., and Oscar W. Thank you guys so much. Welcome to the channel. And thank you so much, Washington, for the super thanks a few days ago. And to Taper Game and Aubrey for rejoining at Tier 3. Very generous of you guys. Thank you. Be well, everyone. I'll see you back here next Friday.